So we are live now. Over to
Thank you. Thank you, Ali. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear listeners. I'm Kavita, your host for today for the season three, chapter five of Soul Show, hosted by, actually conducted by Solvers and produced by our production manager, Ali On Mastan. Here we have today our dear um, speaker Megha Keterpal, and she actually is a very accomplished individual in the fintech solutions. And anything I would say would be very very little compared to what she's achieved. She's led quite a few, she has played quite a few roles in the fintech industry, starting with her career in ICICI Bank, then to American Express, Citibank, and also now the global product head of at TransUnion. She's played multiple roles, shaping the landscape of fintech solutions, the digital innovations, and how analytics are used in your credit cards, and also now I would assume credit score, products that are required for TransUnion. TransUnion mostly is prevalent in the US. I think it's probably grown across the globe now. And with that, I would like Megha to introduce herself. Um, just a little bit more about her. Beyond her love for fintech, she is also has a very empowering, innovative program called Purple Cow Program. I would like to more about that also. I didn't get my time to research that today, but she helps fintech professionals their trajectory and develop robust products that deliver exceptional user experience while maintaining strong security measures and competitive advantage. For all of you fintech professionals out there, you know whom to speak to. And on to you, Megan, now to introduce yourself a little bit and tell a few stories that our users, I keep saying users, our listeners would be eager to know about you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kavita. I'm a privilege to be here. And obviously, special thanks to you and Ali. I think people can call me fraud fighter in heels, or maybe today, fraud fighter with a lipstick. And I've spent like 2 decades in the financial industry and grown from analytics, risk management to preventing now fraud across some 8 to 10 countries, protecting
Mhm.
millions of customers and millions, multi-million dollars of amount. And one fun fact I want to share is that cracked the fraud ring using the most loved professional networking site and data around that. Maybe we'll talk about it if we'll get a chance. So yeah,
Okay.
this is me. My name is Megha Ketarpal, and I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. I love the way you introduced yourself, Megha. The that reminds me of the song, Pussy in the Boots, right? And everybody says, heels are these boots are made for walking. Do you remember the famous song?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, your heels are made for, containing the fraud, and I love that. It's fantastic. Guys, just to give a little peek into what we're going to be talking about today. Fraud follows all of us at every step of the way. From the time you actually whip out your wallet and start using your money, or whip out your credit card and start using it in any place, it doesn't matter how protected the environment is and how protected their data is and all of that. There is somewhere along the way that a fraud can be committed. As simple as, to give you an example, my parents traveled to India and they used their credit card at the card dispensing machine, which costed them, X amount of dollars. By the time they reached India, they had tickets bought on one of the famous, low cost airlines in the US, multiple tickets, multiple hotel bookings, and one of the resorts and all of that. Voila, What do you know? And all the money had to be returned to my parents by the credit card company. Guess who's the loser? Somebody's laughing away to all the way to a resort having fun, while the credit card company is having to pay my parents because my parents are in India. Obviously, they were not in Miami, right? So this is exactly what um, the risk factors involved around your spending patterns, your habits, and everything, how analysis is done. That is what Mega is going to be talking to us about today: how to protect yourself, how technology helps, how fintech solutions help, and all of those things. Mega, let me begin with the very basic question, right? What challenges do financial institutions face in verifying customer identities to prevent fraud? Because here I gave you a very basic example of my parents having traveled to India, using the same credit card, having used it at an airport. That should have raised red flags when they are actually flying and buying more tickets, right? So what is it that stops somebody or enables somebody not to take that into consideration, and that has not raised a red flag at that time? What are the basic things that financial institutions put in place?
So funny thing, it reminds me actually of my first role in ICICI Bank, and I'm talking about almost 2 decades back. So I was
Mm-hmm.
leading a team we had. It was a tried team. It's a Fair Isaac software, and I was leading that tried implementation. Where imagine now for around a billion, transactions were going through on ICICI. ICICI was the largest credit card and the largest private sector bank at that time.
Mm-hmm.
We had this authorization engine. So any transaction, any swipe of the card which is happening, whether online, offline, in any way, all of
Mm-hmm.
that was going through that authorization engine. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
to manage quick turnaround time, we had
Mm-hmm.
these basic rules that if it's not showing any out of pattern behavior, then it
Mm-hmm.
will get directly approved basic basis the basic checks. But if there is a
Mm-hmm.
slight out of pattern behavior, then we had a very detailed strategy tree or a build up where you can say that if it's a holiday period, non-holiday period, transaction coming from a merchant where it's a risky merchant or a non, like a gold transaction where we know
Mm-hmm.
that it can be immediately cashed out compared
Right.
to say, some other so a consumer durable or a gold where easy cash out option is available
Mm-hmm.
versus like a grocery or something else where you can't immediately cash out. So
Mm-hmm.
back then also we had such defined and such rigorous rules. So
Mm-hmm.
it surprises me that we still continue to see those kind of challenges. The tech is advancing, and tech is, I think, faster in hands of bad actors compared
Mm-hmm.
to being used for good purpose. And so the card must have got skimmed. Back then, skimming was a big problem. Now
Yes.
it's, I think, online. Maybe they could have used on a public Wi-Fi, or they could have used when they were doing their big bookings. Was it like a in-person transaction which they did at the airport?
This is because they swipe the card at the kiosk, right?
Yeah,
To dispense a card, the cards that you use at the airports.
right.
And that was the last transaction that they legally had used, and somebody was
Hmm.
buying tickets,
Hmm.
most likely at the same airport, or
Hmm.
got the information right from the kiosk itself, because there are card readers that are illegally placed,
Right.
all
Right.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
and we
but
have seen.
it's like a Stone Age old problem. It's not a, you talk about deep fakes and stuff. That's like a latest, like something which has come in last 10 to 18 months. But this
Yeah.
problem of skimming has been there since I started my career, and seemingly it looks like it still continues to be there. But when
Right.
it goes for authorization, then they need to see out of pattern behavior that
Right.
already some spends were being done for a different country. Now if in a different country spends are happening, then that
Mm-hmm.
should give a quick alert to
Mm-hmm.
the issuing bank.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is, I know that you have worked at American Express, right? So if I travel to, let's say, even if I, sometimes if I spend 2 months in India and go back to the US, the first time I use my card in the US, they want to know whether I'm back, I'm there, I physically have the card or not. American Express is one of the most, I would say, that is the only card I carry. And
Mm.
because I know that I'm safe. I've never had any fraud, occurrence with my American Express card, which I've had with many other cards,
Mm.
so to speak. And I bank with Citibank, and that is one of my favorite banks. I'm sorry, I'm putting it out there, but
Oh.
quickly to ask you, you mentioned about how fraud in all this came in technology and all of that. At the cross section of all of these things, what is the most vulnerable point? Is it the person? Is it the ID of the person, or is it the data of the card itself that is fundamentally vulnerable to theft?
That's a fairly trick question. See, in anything, generally, I'll say that the weakest link is the human link, right?
Mhm.
If you talk from an organization standpoint, when as an organization, if there are hacking which happens or the phishing attacks which happen, where your overall data can get compromised. So in those scenarios, the weakest link is basically the human link. Uh,
Right.
However, when you're talking about like for my in person for an individual, not just for an organization, there are also typically, we see that there is behavior in terms of three parameters. And for simplicity, we can call it like fog. Like a fog,
Mhm.
if there's fog, you will not be able to see clearly, right? So if there is some behavioral fog, we'll not be able
Mhm.
to see clearly. So that fog, for F is for fear. If there is
Mhm.
a strong fear which is there that all these your phone will get uh, say connection will go, or your KYC is pending, otherwise your bank account will get freezed, or it's a call from customs, or your child is like a ransom, or child has been taken away. So there is an
Yeah.
instant fear. So that's
Mhm.
the first challenge which creates that weakness in the human link.
Mhm.
O stands for overconfidence, especially in
Yeah.
younger people. take take
That's
that
what we
with a
wanted
pinch
to
of
talk
salt,
about.
folks.
Yes. Yes.
No offense, I'm a big fan of younger people, and there's always so much to learn from everyone who's younger to me. There's more to learn from them in this age of new age tech. But the
Yeah.
overconfidence that, as I may also have it again in front of people who are senior to me in age or otherwise, and similarly, a lot of people who are younger, they have this overconfidence that it can happen to others, it won't happen to us.
Yeah.
So we
It
have
just
this thing. Yeah.
yeah. No, no, I was just about to say this overconfidence just played out in my life just about a week ago.
Hmm.
I received a WhatsApp message from a friend of mine. Hi, Kavita, how are you? I'm like, I'm fine. Can I talk to you about something, really quickly if it's not too much of a bother? I said, absolutely. And this person is in the US, and I'm here. And he was talking just like, and I was trying, he's like, and I was trying to send a transaction to India. And for some reason, I'm having issues with the bank server. If you could just send it, right now, it'll be really helpful. And here's the GPay number. I said, I had just transacted with GPay and my day's
Wow.
thing is over. And the thing was, the funniest thing is the person actually asked, okay, so how much can you actually transfer today? How much did you max out? I said maybe 10, 15,000 is left. And then the moment he said, then he goes, how much do you have in the bank? I'm like, that immediately was like, okay, this is not, he would never talk to me like that. So I almost, then
Hmm.
I actually went and looked up the GPay number, and it is not. This person is from Andhra, and he was trying to send. That name was completely some Northeast name, some Nepalese or that kind of a name. I was like, that completely then raised red flags. I would have almost sent it unless he got overconfident and was asking me how much money was in my bank, because I
Hmm.
said I couldn't send it by GP. He's like, oh, you can send it from the bank, otherwise, kind of a thing. That is overconfidence. And the red flags, even with all of this that I'm doing, I almost fell
Hmm.
for it.
Yeah. And so it's true that we all need to accept that each one of us, including me, including my family, everyone out there is equally vulnerable. I
Mm-hmm.
have zero qualms about it that, I do this for living and I read it more than anybody else and hence I'll not fall a victim. No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
equally vulnerable. I could be more vulnerable because someone out there may want to make a point, may want to prove it that,
Because we
see,
think we
we are able
know.
to hack you. Now what? And it can make a good, like good fun news. So
Exactly.
I'm equally or maybe more vulnerable. So first is that I'll say that being err on the side of caution, and this is not the place to show that we are smarter than anybody else. So that
Mm-hmm.
fog is that overconfidence, and the younger you are, the more careful you got to be. They typically target seniors or
Mm-hmm.
really young people,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the deep fakes things which are coming in, and we, maybe we can talk about as we'll go in the
Mm-hmm.
flow. And
Mm-hmm.
completing my fog thing,
Mm-hmm.
first was fear. O
Mm-hmm.
stands for overconfidence, and now
Mm-hmm.
G is greed. And I can tell you, latest of the press thing. One of my
Mm-hmm.
friend, very close friend, he called me and he said that his colleague at work, well
Mm-hmm.
paying, well fed, highly educated colleague, he got
Mm-hmm.
some message on WhatsApp that if you'll write a review, we'll pay you say $100 for each review. And there are companies who do that, and we all know, right? There are companies who do that. And he spent multiple hours in the night to write some thousands of reviews, thinking
Yeah.
that I can maybe make some extra money. Eventually,
Mm-hmm.
it turned out to be some 1.5 lakhs that that company owed him. And
Mm-hmm.
during the process, then they started asking him that we aren't able to send money, and can you, first transfer some money so that the bank account can get registered well. And that's how the whole thing was happening, and he actually lost. He lost almost 2 to 3 lakh rupees. So that
Ouch.
greed, again, we all need to again accept, by the virtue of being human, just
Mm-hmm.
by being human, we all
Mm-hmm.
can fall for that greed. So we
Yeah.
need to be conscious on that part, that be careful. If it's actually too good to be true, it
It's
can't be
always,
true.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What has been the evolution of fintech solutions for these? We understand it's as much as we would like to think that some of the algorithms work, and the fintech solutions have been at the forefront to fight these things. What has been the evolution like, from sometimes it's been more analysts sitting in the back and analyzing, and from the time of call centers where somebody was calling you if something was just flagged, to the point of where you said you have more like analytic engines that right now either pass through or flag them. And then what has been, instead of the call centers, what has been the resolution to pass the transactions and stuff like that? What has been the evolution of fintech solutions in this industry?
So evolution of fintech solutions, you pretty much covered from completely manual processes, that when we used to go to banks and we were there in queues, and then now getting into that instant gratification, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
the regulator since last few years have allowed that fully digitally we can onboard people. It's regulator blessed. It's
Mm-hmm.
completely legal, ethical to do that video KYC and not have in-person interaction and still onboard and give loan and open bank account. So that's been pretty much evolution, and I think a large part of that is what is unseen, so under the iceberg. So we see that, yes, that from multiple days to say within few minutes, now we are able to onboard or get that service for which we are going.
Mm-hmm.
Underneath is basically the risk and fraud management practices that have got
Mm-hmm.
improved, where
Okay.
we were doing manual checks and we were looking at hand, so manually, there was large workforce which was
Mm-hmm.
sitting there and looking at the documents, and then there was a maker checker, not just once but multiple people will review the documents, and then someone will approve it. So that was how it was 2 decades
Mhm.
back when I started. And then
Yeah.
it became more analytical and data based and systems based. And now, in large parts, it's AI powered as well. So,
Mhm.
so my favorite suggestion on or favorite tip on that is that it's basically multi-layered approach. There is no
Okay.
one single magic bullet which any fintech or any financial industry is using. Think of it
Mhm.
as a multi-layered gating system. You want,
Mhm.
when the fraudster is coming in, or when a new application is coming in, you don't know whether it's a red application or it's a green application, whether it will be a good actor or a bad actor.
Mhm.
When that application coming in, if we are putting right gates, multiple gates, then
Mhm.
our our hope as a banker, our hope as a fintech leader is that higher likelihood that a risky person or a fraudster or a scammer will get caught in one of those checks.
Right.
So we have
Right.
stepped up authentication. Almost all, I think every fintech, every bank worth its salt must be
Mhm.
having it already now. That a
Mhm.
multi-layered approach just to make sure that the good people get like a red carpet experience, because it will be so seamless and you will not even
Mhm.
know. So
Mhm.
it's a friction which you will not even get to see. So it's
Okay.
behind the scene checks which are
Okay.
happening, and when you get caught in one or two of such, then you start seeing friction based checks, which we call stepped up authentication, where you'll get some alert that yes, there is an added authentication is required, or there's an additional verification is required.
Okay. Coming to the topic of TransUnion and the credit scoring, right? Could you give, our favorite topics, especially the youngsters who do not really understand how their spending habits, when the moment they receive the credit card to the time they start banking, how are the wheels turning in the background? I know for their credit scores.
Right. That's an interesting one. And when we when we get right after our college, we may not
Mhm.
have any credit history, and that's
Mhm.
fine, right? So I remember that back in American Express, and that's also almost 8 to 9 years back, we created a program for giving cards to final year students of top tier
Mhm.
institutes. It's
Mhm.
typically difficult to get a credit card, and especially
Mhm.
American Express or any premium credit card, when you don't have a credit history. So we call it
Mhm.
like a new to credit person in
Mhm.
the banking terms. That so
Mhm.
when you are applying, given you already have Kavita, stayed in the US, stayed here, you have cards already, you have a spending pattern, so you have
Mhm.
built your credit history. So
Mhm.
we call someone like that like a thick file. Enough
Mhm.
trade lines are there for any new lender to
Mhm.
review and to take additional bets on you, right? So
Mhm.
to speak. But when, say, if Ali comes or if somebody else comes and he's like a fresh person out of college, then I,
Mhm.
as a lender, will not
Mhm.
have enough data points on the
Mhm.
bureau.
Mhm.
Traditionally as a lender, most of us were looking at only the bureau data points or heavily on the bureau data points, and now increasingly more and more on alternate data points. uh,
Mhm.
so so when somebody who doesn't have any bureau history, then giving something like a personal loan or higher than X amount is
Okay.
challenging for me as a lender. I don't know whether you'll pay back or not. So you start with a zero credit history when you start.
Mhm.
Now, there are ways for you to build your credit history. So as a
Mhm.
youngster, there are various ways. First is that if you aren't into a job as yet, then
Mhm.
so, so there are multiple innovative products. I think banks keep happening. Closing on the one which I was talking about, American Express. So we created this program for students of top tier institutes that will give you even if you don't have any bureau. We'll give you
Right.
a card even if you don't have any salary income or any regular income, but we'll give you a small limit
Mhm.
just to help you build the habit of
Mhm.
spending it appropriately, paying back. So we are helping you build your credit history in a small and steady way.
Mm-hmm.
without your credit bureau record being there, without you having proper income documents or income checks.
Mm-hmm.
However, we had built in enough safeguards that we started with a small set of B schools. Then we wanted to check that, so some fraud started happening, and then we realized that this is insane. How can someone who's like getting into the final year or will do fraud? And we realized that it was basically not those students, but somebody else was trying and acting up like those students. So we added additional check that we'll check that you have to give your institute an email from your institute. So I'm from Delhi School of Economics, so while
Yeah.
I was there, so I'll have a institute email ID, Megha
Realize.
Khetarpal at dsc.co.in. So
Mhm.
so you send an email from there, and then we saw some fraud happening that domain was right, but the email ID still did not exist. And what happens is it's hard for you to verify, because when you'll send that email as a lender to those institutes or even to top companies, there are auto checks enabled
Forward.
by those companies. Yeah, so it will automatically send a message that
Mhm.
it's auto accept or auto decline, and kind of messages are there, so you will not know, and sometimes you'll know after 2 days or after X number of days that the email ID does not exist. So we had these interesting challenges that
Mhm.
earlier, anybody was applying and getting into default. Then we realized that email domain was correct, but email ID did not exist. Then we
Yeah.
added additional checks, and then that's how we built on it. But
Mhm.
leaving aside the fraud checks, but for someone to build a credit history, those are that's one good program.
Mhm.
Back in ICICI, we had this program that FD based card. So if my kid is like getting into college, and if I believe that yes, she can have a card, one is obviously the add on card, which I can give
Mhm.
her. That will not build the credit history for that person. The add on
Mhm.
card is basically on my credit history if I'm
Mhm.
giving anybody my add on card. But if
Mhm.
there is a FD backed card, which ICICI had many years back, and I'm sure there must be more interesting developments which would have happened. So you get a FD, and then a lien gets marked. And then
Mm.
on 90% of the lien, then you get a card. But with
Mhm.
that card, now your credit history starts getting building,
Right. Right.
right? So,
Right.
once it is getting built, and how will it get built? That you spend. So first inquiry will happen, then the new entry will come in the bureau on first
Mhm.
inquiry. So
Mhm.
any inquiry. Now there's
Mhm.
a lot of consumer durables, or buy now, pay later, or payday loans and stuff. So
Yeah.
that also starts creating transactions in the bureau.
Yeah.
Another old school way is that when you get your first job and a salary account, then typically the bank where you get the salary account, they also give a credit card or first, because they see your salary coming. Even if
Mhm.
you don't have anything on the bureau, I as a bank has or a lender has a lot of confidence that I see your regular income coming in. So that gives
Mhm.
me confidence to give you the first card. So it's just about getting that first thing, and then
Step to
paying
step.
appropriately, not
Mhm.
busting out, not delaying payments. That is
Yeah.
how you build your bureau history. RBI
Mhm.
has mandated that
Mhm.
it is free available once in a year for each
Mhm.
one of us to go
Mhm.
and check our credit bureau report. I
Right.
encourage everybody to go and check your credit bureau report and see that there are trade lines which only you have and someone else has not taken it. That could again be some, identity theft related
Yeah.
scenarios. Yeah. So sorry, long answer, but that's how you
Yeah.
can build a credit
Actually,
history.
you just brought up my next question, and I was about to ask exactly this. How does identity theft actually impact the credit score, and also the future credit that is available to us, and how we can bank, which banks are willing to allow us to open accounts in some of the bigger banks, right? There are more mindful of any fraud that may happen and things like that. How does identity theft play out in our entire life cycle of financial transactions, current and future?
Yeah. I think identity theft has been one of the most fundamental or most common type of tool or fraud being there. What
Mhm.
exactly it means is that your identity. So I am Megha, but I get access somehow. So I go and meet Kavita, and I like her. I go, I visit her, but we are just acquaintance, right? But I gain her trust,
Mhm.
and I get access to say her ID cards, and then we are in the age of social media, so I can easily get access to her. Phone
Images, yeah.
number, date of birth, and related details. Her parents were visiting, and I saw some pictures on Facebook, so I know their names and I know their details. So I
Mhm.
can build up like a synthetic identity is that
Yeah,
if
yeah.
if it
Social
is
engineering.
Kavita and then I add certain things, someone who
Mhm.
does not exist, and I build
Mhm.
that up. That's a synthetic identity. But
Mhm.
identity theft is that I take information from
Mhm.
her without she knowing, and then
Mhm.
I apply. Or
Mhm.
if another, or let's build another thing. So she stays in Dehradun, and I go there, and so she wants to buy a property. I help her out, and while buying property, she's giving her Aadhaar card, she's giving all her documents, and I get access to those documents through her
Mhm.
dealer, for example.
Mhm.
Now I have
Mhm.
her Aadhaar card, I have her PAN card, and
Mhm.
with that, if I can go and get another phone number on her name,
Mhm.
that way, then I'll have a phone number also on which now with that I can start applying wherever I
Yeah,
want to apply.
yeah.
She had very good bureau history because she's been
Mhm.
paying up very well, and now
Mhm.
I get a credit card, which all the details will come on my phone number, for example. So I'll be able
Mhm.
to coordinate with the courier that where to deliver it and stuff.
Mhm.
So I've been able to
Mhm.
get hold of, say, a credit card.
Mhm.
Now when I go bust, so
Mhm.
her bureau is getting impacted.
Right.
So I have taken her identity related documents, and I have created, an account. I leveraged
Mhm.
her account to build a trade line where I
Mhm.
bust, and I now she'll get, say, calls from collections team of that bank that your
Yeah.
details are due, and you haven't paid, and she'll say where I didn't pay, or
Yeah.
the more proactive ways that if she goes and regularly checks her credit report, she'll be
Mhm.
able to find out that wow, there is this credit report and this trade line, and but I've never applied. And
Right.
if I've never applied, then there is a
Mhm.
way. And if you
Mhm.
see anything where you have not applied, then you
Mhm.
go and raise a dispute. So there is a
Mhm.
dispute raising process at bureau, but
Mhm.
we as a bureau or any bureau is basically a custodian of data. A
Mhm.
custodian of data means that, so when you go to a bank's locker, you
Mhm.
take a locker, you put your stuff. The bank is
Right.
custodian of your stuff. The bank can't
Right.
open the locker by themselves, right?
Right.
The bank can't add things or remove things or change anything.
Mhm.
Likewise, bureau is a custodian of data. We can't
Right.
modify anything. Kavita may
Right.
come and genuinely tell us that this trade line doesn't belong to me. I can't
Mhm.
delete it at bureau. So the
Right.
process is that the dispute will get registered, and then
Mhm.
Kavita will need to, and we'll inform the bank or the
Mhm.
lender from where the trade line is. Kavita will have
Mhm.
to go back to the lender or the bank and tell them
Mhm.
now the onus is on the bank to do
Mhm.
additional verification and say that okay, now we go back and recheck the documents, and yes, the phone number is not matching, and when we
Right.
go back and talk to the delivery person or the courier person, yes, they delivered it not at house but somewhere on the road, and
Right.
we see the liveness check didn't happen and some
Mhm.
deviation was taken, right? So it's
Mm.
only hindsight is 20 by 20, and bank will feel that yes, these 2 3 minor things were not done as per
Right.
the standard process, which led
Mhm.
to this instance, and we agree Kavita is victim and is not a perpetrator, she has not done anything wrong, and we take out that trade line. Once they take out that trade line, meaning they anyways continuously report as
Mhm.
recommended by RBI to the bureau. So when
Mhm.
the new trade line was opened, it was reported by that bank to the bureau. Now when
Mhm.
that trade line is removed, then that also gets reported by the bank to the bureau. And that is
Mhm.
how then the bureau record will get automatically updated. So
Okay.
now next time when Kavita will go and check her bureau report, she'll see that trade line's not there anymore.
Right.
So just slightly
And
complex, but still it's a defined process and it works well. And RBI is, keeping a great tab on it to
Mhm.
make sure that customers are not disadvantaged.
Okay. In all this time, while the whole story is unfolding, right, and has unfolded and has now to be, a kind of addressed. While this all this happening, what if we have essential things that we need to do? Let's say I want to buy my house, or I want to do something. I want to take out a loan, and it is not available to me. And I'm having, and you know how it all goes. Sometimes even if one thing doesn't go your way, they may say that this is yours, which is exactly what happened to me. While I was not even
Hmm.
in the country,
Hmm.
um, credit cards were taken out in my name, and while signing documents, I either signed them unknowingly or it was forged. So it's either this or that. I'm not even sure because I don't know how they even got my. While I was not in the country, the card was used extensively, and
Hmm.
one of the banks, when I came to India and I was trying to withdraw some money, money wasn't there in the bank anymore. And
Wow.
I went to the manager and I said, "What happened to my account?" And it's like, "Well, you owed this credit card so much amount of money, and so we tried
Hmm.
collecting. We couldn't reach you, so we took it out of your account." I'm like, I didn't even know that was even legal. They could actually do that. And
Right.
when I asked for my credit card, and I've never, no, I didn't have no that bank's credit card. I'm not taking the name out because I don't think it's
But
required right
I
now.
think I get that name automatically.
Yeah, right. So it was just madness. My money, my all my money in the bank was gone, and I still owed them, and they were chasing me constantly, and showing up at my apartment complexes, telling stories to the security guards, trying to insult me, and doing all of that stuff, and trying to kind of threaten me. All things have happened, and it's been years, and it's still not resolved because I know it's
Wow.
been so long now, it's still not resolved. It's probably still, there's a trade line in my, India's credit card report. So I don't have a credit card in
Wow.
India and I can't get a loan in India and all of that stuff. And here I am trying to solve it. So my question to you, Mika, is how can a decentralized solution, basically an identity solution, decentralized identity solution, cut everything almost at the root of the whole thing that is happening today? Can it solve a major part of the problem?
Yeah. So I think the simplest top of the head is identity, right? When
Mhm,
we share identity. So instead of that paper document, so if we build on your case only, that
mhm,
traditional method, this is what happened, and while you were not there, you are a victim, but you're still being viewed as a perpetrator of that fraud,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So, but in a new setting, so that was BAU scenario. Now, in a new scenario, when we talk about decentralized systems, and
mhm.
there, if identity related checks could only be done in that immutable way, right? The blockchain way, for example,
Yeah, yeah.
where you nobody can get access to your identity, and it's
Mhm,
only when you share identity, then
mhm.
the identity theft goes out of the picture, and all these
Yes.
frauds that we see are
Mhm,
emerging from that. So I think that's where blockchain brings a significant amount of trust to the
mhm,
system. And I was talking to one senior leader, and we were discussing that it's basically AI and blockchain coming
mhm,
together. Is
mhm.
that convergence is what we foresee
Yeah,
will really change the game. AI has
yes.
already improved significant amount of things in terms of efficiency, in terms of speed, in terms of catching
Analysis.
patterns,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the trust and the biases which are there,
Mhm,
and the trust related issues, is
mhm,
blockchain has a significant advantage on that.
mhm.
So when they'll marry, and here top of the head is on digital identity, where it's
Right.
token based, or it's being done in a manner that yes, only you and nobody else has
Yeah.
that power, in a way that it can't be copied, it can't be immuted, and
Complicated.
all
Yeah.
those characteristics
Yeah.
which we have.
In this case, like I said, and like I mentioned, I say that it's not my card. I didn't, use the card because I was not even in India at the time when the card was being used, and my signature was not being verified on the slip because earlier in those days you had to sign the slip,
Mm-hmm.
and they had all the slips, and I know all the charges happened when I was not in the country. And
Mm.
so in this case, even the card can have a win, right? Saying that if I had verified my identity through my, decentralized, ID sharing solution, I cannot refuse by saying that, oh, well, it is not my card. So it is a
Right.
win-win for both. The
Mm.
trust factor that goes both ways. It is a win for the
Absolutely.
user when something, happens. It's a win for the card when where I cannot deny that actually, that I was probably reckless later and allowed somebody else to use the card. But even the usage of the card can only happen by me sharing my identity on the go, on the fly, when I'm using the card, right? So
Love
there
it.
is, yeah, that is a digital signature, my biometric signature that is required when I'm using I'm making the transaction. So there is no, fraud that can be perpetrated, and you cannot deny that you have actually conducted the transaction. It is a win-win for
Right.
everybody.
Right.
And I
And
wish,
so it's about a use case. So what I talked earlier was a new accounts use case. When a new
right.
account is being created, what you talked
Hmm.
about is like a customer management use case. Once we
Yeah.
have a customer, then
Hmm.
also at every point in time, that's the zero trust architect, right? That you
Right.
don't trust
Right.
anything and you verify. You verify at every moment, but the way you
Yeah.
are verifying also need to be the highest standards, which is the
Hmm.
beautiful example you gave, that at the time of
Hmm.
customer management, now you're verifying with the highest standard at every
Hmm.
point in time.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to kind of discussing this at length with you over a period of time. I mean, what are the challenges you see in terms of, in the GDPR rules? And most of the countries, right now we have DP2 in India, right? DPTP that is being kind of probably now going into utility over a period of time. And US has its own laws, Europe has its own laws, and all of that. What challenges, has the financial institutions faced, and fintech solutions face in terms of complying across the borders? Let's say including, decentralized solutions that, we are contemplating today and looking at as a solution, that would reduce the today identity theft itself is, I think US lost $47 billion in 2023 to identity theft, and it's a $20 trillion loss across the globe,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
um, you know
And
um,
I'll say upwards of that potentially because it's always underreported.
is it? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Any fraud
so
number you see anywhere in the world is always underreported because there's a lot of brand sensitivity around it. And how you classify fraud is also subjective. So
right.
I'll say that take it with a pinch of salt that it's at the minimum this much and it will always be more than that.
Yeah, India stands third in the global identity theft losses. US stands first, Japan second, as per the numbers that we get in research and by statistics. Um, so, how do you foresee all these data privacy laws playing into the solutions that are being built? As you worked in the institutions, cross-border transactions, right? Because sometimes the laws differ from country to country. What are the fintech uh, solutions facing at this time?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of uh, privacy related regulations if they're done in
Hmm.
a nice tech oriented way. So I'm happy
Hmm.
to see detailed DPDP draft guidelines which are there. Some of
Hmm.
them are very interesting. Like as a mother of a preteen child, I'm happy to see that uh, any kid's account, if the kid is under age of 18, that need to be done
Mhm.
only with the parental consent. And
Mhm.
more controls are coming on that side of the house, and that how data, when you share data with,
Mhm.
say, when you download an app, when we download an
Mhm.
app and we want a cool feature, there's a lot of things which the app is asking, and we have to say accept all if we want to use that app. Otherwise, the sometimes the app doesn't work. That
Mhm.
was the BAU scenario. But once this act gets into life, then it's
Mhm.
only you're giving access to your details only for a purpose,
Mhm.
only for a stipulated time,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
is awesome, right? I don't want to give it for an indefinite time. I'll give you an example. There is a location tracking service, and
Mhm.
we were evaluating
Maybe
that
switch it
solution.
off.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so if I can track your location, right, and
Mhm.
and I'll say that I'm giving you a card if you'll let me track your location, because I can't
Mhm.
do your physical. And there was a good intent behind it
Yeah.
when we were
Yeah.
building it. So there was a good
Yeah.
intent behind it that I want to avoid physical verification. So in lieu
Mhm.
of physical verification, and with the
Mhm.
goal to give you faster approval on your card, for example. And when I say card, I think it applies to every loan instrument,
Price
just that
financial.
card
Yes.
is easy to relate,
Yeah.
right? So when you apply for anything, and if I say that in lieu of physical verification, you are in
Mhm.
Dehradun, and I may have less branches there compared to
Mhm.
say, another metro, so it will take me
Mhm.
longer for it to be verified and approved. If you'll give me
Yeah.
access, I'll
Mhm.
do a telecom based verification through your mobile phone itself.
Mhm.
What we were doing was pretty cool. We thought we'll ping you in the morning. I hope I'm not splitting the beans. So
It's
I'll
okay.
ping you in the morning, and I'll get lat longs, and I'll convert
Right.
your address which you have. So there is a self-declared thing, and then there is a verified thing. By the
Right.
virtue of being a risk management professional, my job is to make sure that whatever you declare, how do I
Mhm.
verify it with more
Mhm.
confidence? The more
Mhm.
confidence I have on whatever you declare, then I'll know
Mhm.
that yes, you are actually who you are claiming to be. Right? So,
Right.
so I can
Right.
I can trust you, and I can give you whatever you are seeking.
Right.
So now I want to verify that you're actually not in the US, and you're actually in Kavita, and you're in your the area which you are saying. So you've given your
Mhm.
address, you've declared your address. I convert that into lat long. Now I ping you in the morning, and you will not know that I'm pinging your phone. So I'm pinging your phone in the morning and getting lat longs. Now I
Yeah.
compare those lat longs and see that what is the distance. Is
Mhm.
it like an acceptable range, that it's
Mhm.
less than 100 meters, less than 50 meters, which is fine, or is it like 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers? Then there is some trouble, right? And then I ping you again in the afternoon, and then I maybe
Yeah.
ping you in midnight. And
Mm.
so my logic was that before this COVID era, when
Mm.
everybody was going to office and the hybrid
Mm.
was not an acceptable thing, so
Mm.
we could ping, and we'll know that between this to this hours is your office hours, and that time is
Mm.
your home time. And so I can convert and verify that whether whatever you're claiming as your residence address is actually your residence address or not, because
Yeah.
you aren't there at midnight on multiple nights. Then is it really your residence address? Similarly, is it really your work address when you are just not there, on multiple days in a row? Now,
Mhm.
why am I talking about it? So the why am I talking about it is that now in the privacy guidelines, when
Mhm.
you give access, you will know clearly that why are you giving that access, that is being used for what purpose, and for how
Mhm.
long. It cannot be an
Yeah.
indefinite that for 60 days I'll keep pinging you. People came to us that can we get this tool for pinging later also for collections purpose. So
Mm.
the cause is legitimate, but from
Mm.
privacy standpoint, who would
Mhm.
want that, right? Who would
Yeah.
want that someone's just looking into me? It reminds me of that movie where it's a Will Smith's movie, uh, Enemies of the State. I don't know if you've
Right.
seen that. Yeah,
Mhm.
have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen
It's
that.
it's
Yeah.
a beautiful movie. Anyone wanting to make the career in fraud prevention and surveillance should watch that movie. I watched it on a flight and I loved every bit of it. So it's
Yeah.
like if FBI wants to get your information, it will come and get information in ways which are unimaginable. We don't want that surveillance all the time, right? So that's why the
Yeah.
privacy guidelines are very useful. To your point on a financial industry or financial company
Mm-hmm.
managing privacy guidelines across multiple countries.
Mm-hmm.
That is tough. This is tough. Whatever is
Mm-hmm.
acceptable in one is not necessarily acceptable in others. There is onus on in-country legal counsel. So, in addition to
Mm-hmm.
the global legal counsel who can create a global framework, there's a lot of dependency on the law of the land and in-country legal specialist to come and
Mm-hmm.
guide.
Mm-hmm.
Then, to your second question on when we talk about Web3 and say blockchain-based solution or new digital ways of doing this, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not clear on the guidelines which are where is it accepted for what purpose and which country. I think those laws are still evolving, and
Yeah.
so as we'll have more clarity on those regulatory framework, I think
Mm-hmm.
as a fintech person, as a financial leader, I'll have more confidence in
Right. Right.
using those things because we are regulated. Every
Mm-hmm.
fintech or every financial industry in every country is highly regulated. So
Yeah.
you want to go and use a technology where you have full control and where the laws of the land are clear.
Right. Good points, Mega. I was listening to what you were saying, and my mind is ringing like, and I want to say this. Everything that you said. That I want to enable use of my data only for a certain period of time, and be able to revoke it once it is used, and that so beautifully fits into the decentralized identity solutions that somebody I can, and you talked about your child's information being only used only for a certain period of time, but still you are sharing it in a very centralized manner because they still have you don't know. I mean, there is no way that they're purging the data once you've given the permission for them to have it, right? But in a decentralized solution, once they use it, you can revoke it and they don't have access to it. And that is the beauty of the decentralized nature of the data in blockchain solutions. And I've been wanting to say that. I'm like, let her finish and I'm going to bring this up, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But I think it is time for us to use the rapid fire session and get some
Sure.
answers from you.
I think I need
Uh,
some more water now.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to make you drink water. But
Go
this
ahead.
is
Shoot.
okay. What's the most shocking identity theft you have encountered in your career?
So I think the most interesting one, and at that time, AI deepfake was not that prevalent. It was early part of next year, and I
Mhm.
don't know if you have heard about that case. It was almost 200 million dollar Hong Kong dollars and say some 25 million dollars US dollars Hong
Mhm.
Kong case where so I work in a global company, right? And most 80% of the time I'm working remotely. Only
Mhm.
20% of the time is when I travel to different countries, wherever I need to be. Uh, 80% of the time I'm having virtual team meetings,
Mhm.
right? In this
Mhm.
case,
Mhm.
fraudster simulated a virtual board meeting where the
Mhm.
employee was in Hong Kong and he was given uh, suggestions or say he was being told
Mhm.
by senior leader in the company to transfer money. So
Mhm.
that the way they recreated an entire board meeting with voices, faces, everything, I think that was the most shocking case at that time. There's another
Go
fun case also, if
ahead.
you have appetite to hear.
Absolutely. I have the appetite for it also. We can solve it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in Philippines, another interesting fun case which happened was So the telecom regulator came up that verification need to be more stringent at the time of giving SIM cards. It was very easily available earlier, and I'm talking about mid part of last year, mid part of 2024. So they came up with this regulation that it need to be uh, liveness need to be checked. Then the way we have document authentication, liveness related checks here in India and in many parts of the world. So Philippines, the government and the telecom regulator make that mandatory. Then there was a sting operation done by telecom operator, and what came out was that some telecom providers didn't follow it well. What was the sting operation? That a monkey, so they made a real monkey sit and go through that journey, and that monkey went through that journey and got approved. So
Ouch. Ouch.
it was the most fun.
Aren't we
The
all,
second one, which
evolving,
actually hit
evolved from the
very hard, was
monkeys?
the Hong Kong thing.
That's funny. We have evolved from the monkeys,
Yeah,
and
see, because it
they have.
says liveness, and it is giving live movements, it is giving live eye movements.
Yeah.
So the system thought it is live, and then I went back, right? I went back and checked in our systems that had it been our system,
Mm-hmm.
then what would have happened, right? So then I got to know that we check whether it's a human or a non-human also, in addition to multiple other things of the
Aliveness and movements.
yeah, but we also check whether the limbs and whatever are the algos are basically a human. And then I got a little bit of relief that thank you, thank God, we'll not fall for such kind of scenarios. But I was worried. And I immediately wanted to check that what will happen. I am selling the solution, and tomorrow more such cases will come. Then yeah, it's a brand
Yeah,
impact.
somebody's going to use it. Yeah, absolutely. You can bet
Yeah,
on it. And as the tech is evolving, fraud keeps evolving too. We know that very well.
yeah.
And according to you, what's the farthest? Next question. According to you, what's the fastest growing type of financial fraud in 2025?
I think it will. It's more like that synthetic identities, but now increasingly more powered by AI. So deepfakes are already like traditional synthetic identities on steroids is what I see, what we see in deepfakes, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that's what gives me heartburn that we don't have like a true solution to catch that as yet.
We are going to bring it to you very soon.
Ah, awesome.
We'll keep you posted. Yeah. We have a hot take here. Among the 8 countries you've worked in, which one leads in fraud prevention?
Singapore is fairly, I think, advanced, and
Mm-hmm.
thanks to the collaboration which the government, regulator, industry is doing, and the tech advancement on that side. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll pick if I have to pick one, I'll pick that. Otherwise, just by the virtue of being in India, then the Aadhaar project's also very close. It's the biggest digital identity framework in the world, after all.
Mm-hmm. Among all the roles that you have held at multiple institutions like Amex, Citi, and TransUnion, which role taught you the most about fraud prevention?
I think with the divine grace, with every role, the canvas has got expanded,
Mm-hmm.
and so TransUnion hands down, and uh, I think I'm super grateful for this role. It's giving me
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to go globally, see multiple countries firsthand, have patterns in my mind, and has given me autonomy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for this role for sure.
Awesome. We're almost at the end of the session, Megha. It's before I leave the floor to you to give a little bit of advice to the young leaders in the industry. My gratitude for all the things that you have shared with us today. You have given me some ideas about what we can do at Solverse with our digital identity, and also how we can shape the financial future of individuals, organizations, the financial industry, fraud prevention, and all the things that come with it. Before we leave, it's almost 1 minute to 9. what would be your number one piece of advice for young leaders looking to make their mark in the industry? And with that, we'll be closing today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'll leave the floor to Megha to give you guys a piece of advice on how to handle your finances, and also people to those who are building some tech in the industry.
I'll say that be the purple cow in the herd of black, brown, and other cows. So don't just be good, be remarkable. Be someone who's not what anybody else has seen. That
Mhm.
doesn't only bulletproof your career, it just gives you a different level of excitement. You'll get spotted, you'll get opportunities which others won't. So
Mhm.
I'm a big fan, and I imbibe and live that. I
Mhm.
don't just so as they say, practice what you preach. So
Mhm.
I'm practicing this
Fantastic.
mantra that be the purple cow and not just about anybody.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Megha. And we are our soul versus color is purple. So do we qualify?
Of course, then I need to see more, but of course, you qualify as someone in Web3, a woman in Web3, making remarkable progress and uh, reverse brain drain, so to speak. So, of course,
Yeah.
you do.
Thank you so much. And, thank you, Megha. I'll be looking forward to, catching up with you offline. And everybody, we have shared her deets on our social media channels. You can connect with her. You can ask her more questions. If you are looking for career advice or, your personal advice, you can reach out to her. It's been a pleasure, Megha. Thank you so much for giving us the time today. And I look forward to more conversation with you on everything financial fraud, and also everything that is related to fintech solutions. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
you.
you all
Thank
for
you.
joining us
Pleasure
today.
being there. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.